As you probably know already, there are different configurations of our consciousness, which then create different consequences and behavioral structures that we have to be cognizant of as we are creating reality and shifting into the reality of our dreams. So, for example, just in case there are some of you that haven't thought about this yet, you can be in childlike consciousness. And this is what a lot of Western religions teach. There is a creator who does everything for you. And essentially, all you have to do is follow the rules. Otherwise, you get kicked out of the house. This is like Christianity. And it just so happens that the subset of rules takes on different flavors and forms depending on which sect of and branch of Christianity you happen to be following. But it pretty much comes down to you're in a hierarchical arrangement and you have to follow somebody's authority, and there is a person, usually a pastor, a minister, a pope, that is the interfacing link between the higher authority and you. And although you can access the higher authority, you do so in more of a passive way, where you send up prayer requests and things of that nature. And the active relationship that you have is with the person that is the representative and the intermediary link. And in other religions, and I don't want to dissect religions because this isn't the podcast for this, but there are different configurations where you are actually a creator and you can rise to the role of being a creator. And it's a very privileged role, although I believe that this is changing. You know, a lot of these, I am going to go on a tangent. I need to say it. A lot of these religions were formed during a time that humans were very, very primitive, thousands and thousands of years ago. If you follow traditional mainstream history, and I know some of my old history listeners, just be patient with me, okay? So, as a result, the social structures of humanity were such that people were like wild animals and had to be heavily taught. I was going to say controlled, but that's not the flavor that I'm going for right now. They had to be taught how to behave and to not kill their brother and take his wife. And now you fast forward and look at our social structure today. We are much more demure. We are much more diplomatic. It doesn't mean that we're not savage, because we still have savage indications of our species, but for the most part, we're domesticated. We've been domesticated. And so it makes sense that way back then, whenever these religions were coming into fruition, they had to conquer the brutality of man. And there were only a couple of people that could be mystics, and they were often men, and they could be seen in a certain light, right? And through our evolution, through society, through psychology and sociology and all of the things that make us us, we have awakened to the point that now your gas station attendant could actually be a witch when they go home at night, a legit one. And some random person that you see on TikTok could be casting spells to get their loved one back and actually tapping into the dark arts. And your Uber driver could be the next spiritual leader. I know somebody that is definitely in line for this. And, you know, when they complete a certain part of their journey, like, they're going to be so big in society. But the people that ride with them, do they know that? I don't know, right? And now we have everyday mystics, myself included, that are able to access the beyond, and we all have different flavors. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza is also a quantum entanglement teacher and a quantum field master and also a neuroscientist, and his flavor is different from mine. And then we have other people as well that have all of these different skills and abilities that are coming online. And so as a result, the roles for which we obtain enlightenment and consciousness are no longer just being the endless student paired up with a guru in some place in India, in some ashram, like that was a very valid path and still is, but it's no longer one of the only paths. Now we have this expansion and explosion. So as a result, many of us are shifting that role from childlike consciousness, where we are following the rules of our parent upstairs and, like trying not to get kicked out of the house. And they're going to make a special place for us in heaven. And it's going to be gold and with angels and love, like, what if I don't want that? What if I want a pool party, like Vegas style pool party? I don't personally, but like there are so many different flavors of heaven. Why does it have to look like laudy, ritzy? It could be a different flavor altogether. Cyberpunk, quantum style is what I would go for. Anyway, so now we're shifting away from everything being taken care of for us as long as we follow the rules to being able to actually create our own, and it not being so unusual like it once was. Of course, when you look at the mainstream, at least when I open a new TikTok account, the thirst traps of the mainstream, whatever everybody likes, the average person, makes me think that it's still kind of special. So I'm not trying to say that this path isn't valuable and it isn't unique and distinct. Like I noticed that on, I think it was Instagram and YouTube, that trying to find the right tags, and even X, trying to find the right tags for topics that you would be interested in, there was nothing related to consciousness. Nothing. So that tells you, like where the main body of thought still is. But in these little niches, there are many, many of us: starseeds, light workers, witches, occult practitioners, so many different flavors. And that's just like scratching the surface. So now this is where we are kind of in uncharted territory, particularly as it relates to reality shifting, because now that I am no longer just a student, I am still a student sometimes, but now that I'm no longer just a child, now I am trying to co-create with the universe. I'm trying to co-create with other creators, yourself included. I'm trying to co-create with the partners that I have in my life, with my child, with my neighbors. I'm trying to co-create. What does this really mean? Unfortunately, what it means is that my need to control everything gets in the way. And I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for you, but I realize that I vacillate between two different modalities. One is the hierarchical, I'm controlling everything. And then the other is I'm controlling nothing. And the co-creating archetype is in the middle. And what this really means is that if on one side of the spectrum, like we already talked about, everything is being done for you, then on the far opposite side of that is that you're doing everything and you're micromanaging your creations. You're micromanaging the how. You're micromanaging the partners that come into your life, the order. And This, I think, is a consciousness trap that we need to break out of. And I find it to be really indicative of anxiety. And when I slip into the controlling aspects, and sometimes you do need to take the reins. So, what I'm talking about is temperance and balance. And when you need to take the reins, but you also need to back off. So, you sort of dance with it, right? But when you're in the controlling mindset, then you never let the universe surprise you because you're never patient enough. And you're always worried that it's not going to come through. So then, if you're like me, then you're starting in a new direction, you're starting a new project, or you're forcing it, or the whole divine timing piece of it is really a phenomenon. It's a real thing. And so when you are trying to co-create with the universe, what this means, practically speaking, is that you create a plan, a manifestation plan. You map out your desired reality. And you start navigating a shift plan or charting a direction to your desired reality. When you are actually in the co-creation energy, what this means is that sometimes you're not going to be creating. I'm going to repeat this mostly for myself and for those of you who need to hear it. When you're actually co-creating with the universe, sometimes you are not going to be creating. You're going to be resting and letting the universe create for you. And this is the hardest part, I find, of balancing these energies. Because when you start to get a taste of manifestation, you can easily overdo it and just create. And that burns your energy. Sometimes you actually need to revitalize your energy. You need to take time in solace, alone, resting, and not trying to push anything or to shift anything or even to desire anything. It's almost like you take this bird, and I don't know why I'm thinking of like a pigeon, like a carrier pigeon. You map out like your desired reality, right? And you put it on a little scroll, a little piece of paper, and you roll it up, and then you tie it together with a ribbon. I'm seeing a red ribbon. And this pigeon from the universe comes into your window, and you tie the little scroll with your plan on the pigeon, and then it flies off, and it goes to deliver the plan to the universe. Meanwhile, the universe is ordering things and cosmically restructuring things and running the computations, depending on if you're linked into a majestic AI system, not the scary ones. We're not talking about those here, but like the actual optimizing of a reality ones, which is in existence in some matrices, but I don't know if it's active here. Anyway, so there are things that are happening in the background. Meanwhile, you're waiting, right? Now, if you are anxious or if you have any sort of experience with people letting you down or have a hard time waiting or are just generally impatient because you like to see results quickly, then this could be quite challenging for you. And you might have a tendency to forget that the pigeon is delivering the message and that the universe is doing its part. And you might have a tendency to say it's not working and then to shift directions. This actually creates a blockage, in my opinion. It doesn't always. There are unique situations, but it creates a blockage because all of a sudden you take your energy and you shift it in a rightward direction. And let's say originally you were at 12 o'clock if you're thinking at a like analog clock, and you directed all of your energy towards a material manifestation, which is going to come to you at 12 o'clock. And then you tear everything up and you're like, no, it's not working. And so you shift to 2 o'clock. And then you have all of your energy, your masculine energy, projecting outwards in that direction, your intent, your focus. And let's say that something happens there and something happens really quick there, and then it captures you and it hooks you in. Now your 12 o'clock manifestation wants to come to you, but you're not receiving it. You're not in the ready position. It's kind of like I used to play tennis, intramural tennis, and a really big part of training yourself is after you hit the ball to be in a ready position and to be actually focused on the ball coming back to you versus in your head analyzing or critiquing or planning or watching, or there are many variations. And so you want to be in a ready position. But if all of a sudden you turn your back to where the ball is going to come, then you're going to miss it. And this is what happens when people forget that they're co-creating with the universe. I'm speaking from experience here because I've talked about this before. I sometimes struggle with understanding what happens on the back end of seeing things come to fruition. And sometimes I pull the string of, hey, I need a sign. Is it still working? And recently I just did that. And so this is why I'm sharing this, because I can observe it in myself and then disseminate it to you if you are also struggling with this. And so then the universe will send a sign and it'll be like, oh, okay, it's working. I just need to hold on, just need to be patient. And so when you are balancing this energy of active and passive, it's more complicated than that. I don't like to speak in dualistic terms, but for the sake of communication, sometimes it is easier to do so. It's really important to understand that everything is working, but the timing of when things actually materialize for you is not in your control. It's not in your control. And get this is a really fun thing, I think. This is why I like co-creating. You are going to be surprised. There's going to be some element of surprise when you are co-creating, when you're actually co-creating, because by the very nature of the definition, you are allowing another sentient being, another partner, the consciousness of the source of the universe, whoever your contacts are, your entourage, right? You are corresponding with other conscious entities and beings in human form and non-human form. It varies depending on what your affiliations are. And so when you're actually co-creating, that means that you're going to actually be surprised in some way, either the how it comes to you, the what the final picture actually looks like, the when it comes to you, and when you're working with an entourage or a group that really excites you and that is really in alignment with you, then this can be a very, very joyful experience. You're probably not working with people that you're not in alignment with, although sometimes there are situations that would require that. But for the most part, these are fun surprises. They're not going to be like nightmare surprises. And so keeping that in mind, that allowing yourself, what I like to do when I can remember to do it, when I don't always remember to do it, but what I like to do is I like to remember that miracles can happen, because a miracle in of itself is by definition a surprise. And it's not just any surprise, it's an amazing surprise. It's like something that comes through right at the right moment, something that comes out of left field, something that you never thought would happen just suddenly appears at your door. And so by almost programming the subconscious mind with a mantra of miracles can happen, or I expect miracles, or my life is miraculous, then you create that space for the co-creation to surprise you in a miraculous way. So I hope this helps. And I am indeed a reality shifting coach, both on myself and with other people. If you are interested in my services to help you reality shift, to manifest, to troubleshoot, to get to that life of your dreams, or even to expand your consciousness from from binary to quantum. We're not getting to the next level beyond quantum yet. There is a society that I have been in touch with, but it's still too far for me to teach about right now. I'm still expanding to quantum myself. So please reach out to me at sacredjourneyproductions@gmail.com. Okay, we'll talk soon.